Hey, everybody. Ready for some poetry?
Poetry. I thought we were going to talk about.
Yeah, poetry. But not just any poetry.
Okay.
We're diving into the Psalms today.
The Psalms. Okay.
They're way more than just nice verses, though.
Yeah,
We're
right.
going to see how they're like blueprints for prayer. I
Interesting.
think even if you've never even opened a Bible,
Yeah,
you can find something in the Psalms that'll resonate.
I bet.
They talk about feeling totally lost, celebrating the good stuff, all with this honesty that's like, whoa, still so relevant.
Definitely, yeah.
We'll unpack a few, see how they can help with,
Like what?
like when life throws you a curveball.
Makes sense.
We'll touch on protection, forgiveness, finding your way,
Okay.
even that whole shepherd thing.
Classic.
What's wild is people know, like, a couple famous lines,
Right.
but they miss how much emotion is packed in there.
Oh, for sure.
There's a psalm for, like, every human experience, pretty much.
Yeah. From deepest despair to like the highest joy.
Exactly. It's not all just praising God.
Yep.
It's the full spectrum, human stuff.
Real, raw.
And relatable, even thousands of years later.
Amazing. Yeah.
So before we jump into specifics,
Okay.
what are we dealing with when we say the Psalms?
So it's 150 poetic songs. Most are King David's,
Oh, right. Yeah.
collected in the Hebrew Bible.
Gotcha.
But they weren't meant to just be read. They
Right.
were sung, chanted, set to music.
Whoa, like anthems.
Imagine that, ancient anthems,
Yeah.
expressing everything from personal stuff to like hopes for the whole nation of Israel.
So personal and big picture.
Exactly.
That's neat. All right, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Psalm 11, it's like a cry for help when the world's against you.
Powerful imagery, right?
Yeah, I can imagine.
Imagine yourself surrounded by bad vibes, like arrows flying at you everywhere.
Intense.
That's how David captures feeling vulnerable, threatened.
It sounds like an action movie.
Haha, a little bit.
But then it changes, right?
It does, yeah.
How so?
Contrasts that chaos with God's throne, way up high,
Okay.
seeing everything that's going down.
Like a security camera?
Kind of, but it's saying even when we feel surrounded,
Mm-hmm.
there's a higher power who gets it, sees our struggles.
That's got to be comforting.
For sure, especially if you're going through it.
Now, Psalm 16, this one's about trusting God's guidance.
Right.
The Lord being our portion and our cup. What's that mean?
Here's where the Psalms get super poetic.
Okay.
Boy portion is like your lot in life, your destiny,
Huh.
almost like an inheritance.
I see.
And the cup is all the experiences that come with it.
Good and bad.
Yeah.
The whole package.
So the Psalm's saying God himself is your inheritance.
Exactly. Your source of fulfillment.
So it's not about like getting the biggest slice of pie,
Not quite. Huh.
but knowing your true value comes from something deeper.
More enduring. Yeah.
And then it describes this inheritance as pleasant places.
Beautiful imagery.
So even if life's rough, there's a divine design to it, a sense that you're where you're meant to be.
Okay, I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
Like the road's bumpy, but the destination's beautiful.
Yeah, because it's part of a bigger plan.
That's reassuring. If you're feeling lost,
Absolutely. Psalm 16 is all about trusting in that purpose.
even when we can't see the whole picture.
Right.
Okay, now for the one everyone knows a little bit of.
Let me guess.
Psalm 23, the shepherd one, right?
The most comforting image ever, maybe.
I love it.
It's not just biblical, it's like universally understood.
Yeah.
Picture yourself as a sheep, totally dependent on the shepherd
But
for guidance, protection, everything.
lying down in green pastures by still waters.
Pure relaxation.
But there's more to it than just a pretty picture.
Yeah, much more.
What else is there?
It's that deep peace, knowing you're cared for
Mm-hmm.
by someone who knows what's best.
I like that.
And then, of course, the famous line,
Hit me with it.
yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death.
I will fear no evil.
Chills, right?
Every time. So even in the darkest times,
Even facing the unknown,
the shepherd's there.
that's Psalm 23 in a nutshell.
Powerful stuff.
It's a reminder. No matter your challenges, your fears,
You're not alone.
the shepherd's always there, guiding, protecting, providing.
And that leads us to a psalm about when we mess up.
Oh, when we need forgiveness.
Psalm 51, this one's not about pretty pastures.
Nope, this one gets real.
About regret, huh?
It's a raw confession of wrongdoing,
Wow.
a plea to be cleansed, renewed.
The language is strong, too.
Oh, yeah, talking about washing away iniquity.
Oh, iniquity, that's a big word.
It's like the weight of your mistakes,
The burden.
the guilt, the shame you carry.
I see.
The psalm says God can lift that burden
Wash it away.
and give you a fresh start.
So it's not just feeling bad.
No.
It's about wanting to change.
Yeah.
Transformation from the inside out.
Exactly.
Psalm 51 is a reminder That God's mercy
is bigger than our mistakes.
We all need to hear that sometimes. But so far, it's been personal needs, you know?
Right.
What about when it's bigger stuff?
Bigger?
Like affecting our community, the world even.
Ah, I see.
Did the Psalms have anything for that?
They absolutely do.
They do.
They don't shy away from the big issues.
Wow.
Justice, peace, societal stuff.
Interesting.
They can even help us see how our own struggles fit into that bigger picture.
Okay, that makes sense.
So there's a psalm for pretty much anything you can think of.
Both personal and beyond.
You got it.
Awesome.
For example, Psalm 34.
What's that one about?
Deliverance from fears and troubles.
Then.
Psalm 37 encourages patience.
Patience, okay.
And trusting God's timing.
Those sound pretty relevant these days.
Do you think?
With all the anxiety everyone's feeling.
No kidding.
And what about finding peace when everything's chaotic?
For that we turn to Psalm 46.
Okay, what's it say?
It's about finding that inner stillness.
Even when the world's falling apart.
Yep. It says God is a refuge.
A refuge?
The source of strength amidst the craziness.
Like finding your center.
Yes. Even when everything's shaking around you.
I think a lot of people are looking for that.
Totally.
And the Psalms give us the language for it.
A framework for expressing those deep longings.
Yeah.
And finding solace in something bigger than ourselves.
It's like a direct line to something timeless.
That goes beyond the everyday ups and downs.
We could talk about these all day, but for this deep dive, we want to make sure you've got the highlights.
Right, the key stuff.
There are a few others that are really powerful.
Okay.
And super relevant to how we live today.
Like what?
Have you ever felt that, like, deep longing for connection?
Longing.
Like a thirst for something more than what the world offers?
Oh, absolutely.
I think most of us have, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What psalm would speak to that?
Psalm 63 uses this amazing image.
What image?
A deer panting for water in a dry and thirsty land.
Wow, that's vivid.
To show that intense longing for God's presence.
It captures that emptiness.
That ache in your soul that only something deeper can fill.
It's powerful stuff.
It's a reminder that we were made for connection.
Connection with something bigger.
And the Psalms show us how to express that.
To pour out our hearts to God.
And seek that deeper fulfillment.
And speaking of deep longing.
Yeah?
What about when we're facing actual danger?
Danger, okay.
Threats, anxieties, you know, when we just need to feel safe.
Is there a psalm for that? You bet. Psalm 91 is all about protection and refuge.
From danger.
It says God is a shield, a fortress.
A protector.
It's super reassuring, talking about dwelling in the secret place.
A secret place.
Of the Most High and being under the shadow of the Almighty.
Like an invisible force field.
Uh-huh. Like that.
Shielding you from all the bad stuff.
Exactly. It's about finding that security, that peace.
Knowing you're not alone in facing your fears.
That's it.
There are tons more psalms, but we got to highlight a few key ones, you know.
To understand the whole collection.
What else should we dive into?
3 more are essential.
Okay, hit me.
First, Psalm 100. It's all about celebrating God's goodness.
Celebrating.
A call to be grateful, to enter his gates with thanksgiving.
It's like a reminder to focus on the positive.
To choose joy even when things are rough.
That's a good one.
Then there's Psalm 103.
What's that one about?
God's mercy and forgiveness.
Forgiveness, okay.
A beautiful reminder of his love, his willingness to forgive us.
To offer us a clean slate.
We all mess up, you know.
We all fall short.
This one says there's always a path back.
Back to wholeness.
A chance to start fresh.
That resonates with me.
It's a message of hope and grace.
Okay, and the last one.
Psalm 119, the longest one in the whole book.
Whoa, seriously?
A deep dive all on its own.
Okay.
But essential for understanding how the Psalms connect to living a life guided by faith and wisdom.
So it's like the ultimate guidebook.
You could say that.
With a spiritual compass.
It's about aligning your inner compass with a greater purpose.
Finding direction, meaning...
in something bigger than yourself.
I like that.
What's cool is it explores all the ways we can engage with
the gods.
With that stuff. Through study, meditation, obedience, even questioning.
So it's not just reading the Bible.
Nope. It's about wrestling with it.
Applying the wisdom to our lives.
Letting it shape us.
Our thoughts, words, actions.
Well, it makes it so powerful.
It's a lifelong conversation.
With something bigger than yourself.
Before we move on to the next part of this deep dive.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on these first few Psalms?
The key takeaway.
Yeah.
Even just these few. They show us the raw honesty and the deep depth of human experience.
It's pretty profound.
They're an invitation to engage with our own emotions.
Our doubts, fears, hopes, all of it.
And to bring it all to God.
We don't have to have it all figured out.
No way.
We can come to God as we are.
Messy, imperfect.
And he meets us with love, compassion.
And guidance.
And in that encounter.
Yeah.
In that dialogue with the divine.
We might just find a path to healing.
Rest-driven.
And a deeper understanding of our place in the grand scheme of things.
That's beautiful.
You know, it's amazing to think about these Psalms as they were originally, like how they were first experienced.
Oh, okay.
These weren't just words on a page. They were...
What were they then?
Living, breathing expressions of faith.
Whoa.
And set to music.
Really?
Sung, chanted, even danced to.
Whoa, like ancient worship anthems.
Exactly, like a soundtrack to their spiritual lives.
That's so cool. So when we read them now,
yeah,
we're missing out on a whole dimension.
In a way, yeah. But even without the music, the Psalms still have that poetic beauty, that depth.
Yeah, that's true.
And speaking of that, there's something else interesting.
What's that?
Literary devices like parallelism.
Parallelism, huh?
You ever notice how they repeat phrases, ideas?
Oh, yeah, kind of like...
Slightly different ways each time.
It's like they're trying to make a point, really drive it home.
Exactly. That's the power of it, amplifying the emotion.
Creating emphasis.
Urgency.
So there's more to it than meets the eye.
Layers upon layers.
Before we get too deep into the poetry analysis, though.
Okay.
Let's get back to those last few songs we talked about.
Sounds good.
You mentioned Psalm 139 about God knowing us intimately.
Right. A masterpiece of introspection and awe.
What makes it so powerful?
It tackles this huge mystery, you know?
Oh.
God's presence in our lives.
I see.
That he knows us better than we know ourselves.
That's kind of freaky, isn't it?
It can be, yeah.
Like God's involved in everything.
He talks about knitting us together in the womb.
Whoa, seriously?
Knowing our thoughts before we even think them.
No way.
Seeing every step we take, it's all in there.
Yeah, it's intense.
It can be unnerving, but also really comforting.
Comforting how?
It means we're not just random accidents.
Okay.
We're designed, known, and loved by something huge.
Like even the parts we try to hide.
Our deepest thoughts and feelings.
God sees it all.
All open to his loving gaze.
That's a challenge, but also...
An invitation.
Yeah, to be authentic, to embrace who we are.
Knowing we're fully known and accepted.
Now, speaking of acceptance,
yeah,
we can't leave out Psalm 103, the one about mercy, forgiveness.
So relevant for anyone who's ever messed up.
Made mistakes.
Yeah.
Felt that guilt and shame.
It's like a balm for the soul.
How so?
It says God's love is bigger than our screw-ups.
Than our failings.
His compassion is deeper.
That's reassuring.
He removes our transgressions as far as the east is from the west.
Okay, that's a long way.
And he remembers our sins no more.
So it's not just forgiven, it's like completely erased.
Gone, removed from the equation. It's experiencing that radical grace, you know? Being cleansed, renewed, given a fresh start.
That's got to be free.
Especially if you've been carrying a lot of baggage.
Psalm 103 offers that path to healing then. A reminder that no matter what,
God's love and mercy are there.
Okay, we've covered a lot of Psalms.
We have.
Each touching on different things.
Different aspects of being human.
And our relationship with God. But before we get to the final part.
Okay.
There's something I'm curious about.
Sure.
You said the Psalms were meant to be sung, chanted.
Right. Experienced as music.
So are we missing something today?
Approaching them, like, intellectually?
Yeah, just analyzing, dissecting.
You're asking a great question.
I try.
And honestly, I think there's some truth to that.
We might be missing that emotional impact.
That visceral experience of them as songs.
Songs of the soul.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do we bridge that gap?
How do we recapture that?
Yeah.
It starts with being mindful of their musicality.
Even when reading silently?
Pay attention to the rhythm, the repetition, the images.
Okay.
Almost hear the music in your mind.
Feel the emotion.
Read them with your heart, not just your head.
I can do that.
We can also explore other ways of experiencing them.
Like what?
There are amazing musical settings, old and new.
Oh, cool.
Listening to those can help us connect differently.
Adding a soundtrack to our spiritual exploration.
Exactly. What else can we do?
To bring them to life, I mean.
Experiment.
With
chanting them, reciting them out loud. Even setting them to our own music.
Wow, okay.
Try different translations, too.
Why different translations?
Each one captures the Hebrew a little differently.
So it's about finding what resonates with us.
Finding what helps us connect to the heart of the Psalms.
And as we do that, we realize they're not just old texts,
right,
but living words.
That can speak to us in amazing ways.
Before we wrap up this part,
Yes.
there's one more psalm I want to touch on.
Okay, which one?
Psalm 150, the grand finale.
Right. The call to praise God with everything we've got.
It's a fitting ending, isn't it?
After all that exploration, the struggles, the joys
We arrive at this celebration.
of God's goodness and majesty.
Psalm 150 is a whole symphony of praise.
It wants us to use all our senses, our energy.
In worship,
It mentions trumpets, harps, drums,
dancing, stringed instruments, it's like
a cosmic jam session.
an explosion of joy.
Gratitude, yeah.
And it's not just about making noise.
It's about using every part of ourselves.
To express that love for God.
Our bodies, minds, emotions, creativity.
It's really empowering.
It shows us that praise is active, not passive,
It can transform us.
in the world around us.
So it's more than just hymns in church.
It's about finding creative ways to praise.
In everyday life.
Through music, art, dance, anything.
Okay, so it's a challenge to bring more praise into our lives.
A call to action.
But what about when we don't feel like praising?
When we're struggling.
With doubt, grief, anger, all that.
Those emotions have a place too.
They do.
The Psalms are incredibly honest.
They don't shy away from the hard stuff.
They show us the lamentations of the human heart.
So it's okay to bring those feelings to God.
Absolutely, don't hold back.
We don't have to pretend everything's fine.
The Psalms teach us that authenticity is key.
To our relationship with God,
We can pour out our anger, our grief, our doubts.
knowing He can handle it.
And in that honesty, that vulnerability,
Yeah.
we might find healing.
Wholeness.
The Psalms remind us that even in those dark moments,
God's there.
listening, comforting, guiding us to peace.
That's a powerful message.
It is.
Before we get to the last part of this deep dive, we will talk about how the Psalms help us today.
With modern life, yeah.
What's the key takeaway about the Psalms we've seen so far?
Remember this. They're not just ancient poems.
They're more than that.
They're a mirror reflecting human experience.
All of it.
They give us a language for our souls.
A way to connect to something bigger.
And find meaning in all the complexity of life.
And in that connection,
Yeah.
that exploration of ourselves, of God,
You might discover strength, resilience, hope.
to get us through anything.
Beautifully put.
So you ready to see how these verses...
Can help us today.
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
Hmm.
All right. So we've spent a good amount of time on what the Psalms are.
Their history, structure, those big themes.
Now let's get practical. How can they actually help us?
Help us.
Yeah, like in our modern lives with all the
All the what?
stress, the uncertainty, even the good stuff, you know.
You're asking how these ancient poems can be relevant today.
Exactly. How can they help us navigate like
Navigate what?
all the things life throws at us?
The anxieties, the uncertainty.
And the joys too, right?
You hit the nail on the head. That's where the Psalms really shine.
How so?
They're more than just pretty words. They're like
Like what?
a toolbox for the soul, offering practical guidance.
I love that. A toolbox for the soul.
So picture this.
Okay. And picture
You're feeling overwhelmed, right?
by
All the information overload, the negativity everywhere.
the news, social media, all that.
What psalm would you turn to?
Good question, maybe.
I'd go straight to Psalm 46.
That's the one about God being
Our refuge, our help in times of trouble.
right. Exactly what we need when the world feels crazy.
It's like finding that quiet space
When everything's loud and chaotic.
to reconnect with peace, with stillness.
And Psalm 46 reminds us that
Even when everything's shaking around us,
God,
our firm foundation, our unwavering support.
it's like that feeling of being grounded,
When you're anxious, unsure.
having something solid to hold on to. Yeah.
Speaking of feeling unsure,
About?
another big challenge today, feeling lost.
Lost in what sense?
Not knowing your direction, your purpose.
Oh, yeah. I've totally been there.
It's easy to get caught up in the hustle,
Striving for achievement, validation.
and lose sight of what truly matters.
What psalm can help us with that?
When you're feeling lost, turn to Psalm 16.
The one about God being our portion.
Exactly, our true inheritance.
Reminding us that.
The fulfillment comes from our relationship with God.
Not from achievements or possessions, right?
It's about shifting the focus.
From doing to being.
Yes, from striving to surrendering.
Okay, I'm starting to see it.
When we surrender to God's guidance,
Yeah.
we open ourselves up to a deeper purpose.
A path that might not be easy, but...
But it's aligned with our true calling.
Now, another challenge that's huge these days.
What's that?
Forgiveness. It's so hard sometimes.
Especially with all the negativity online.
To let go of grudges, bitterness.
How can the Psalms help us with that?
With forgiveness.
Yeah, when it feels impossible.
Well, there's one that comes to mind.
Which one?
Psalm 51. It's all about,
Seeking and offering forgiveness.
it starts with that confession, right?
Acknowledging our own mistakes, our need to be forgiven,
It's about taking responsibility.
owning up to our part, seeking reconciliation.
And then there's that image of,
God washing away our iniquity, giving us a clean heart,
it's about experiencing that transformation.
letting go of the past, moving forward.
With hope, with purpose,
Psalm 51 is like a roadmap.
to healing relationships, finding peace.
Within ourselves and with others.
It's a powerful message in our divided world,
It reminds us that forgiveness isn't about condoning wrong,
but about breaking free from bitterness.
opening our hearts to compassion and reconciliation.
It all comes back to that core message, doesn't it?
What message?
That even when we're struggling,
Feeling lost, overwhelmed, broken,
God is there for us.
offering comfort, guidance, a path to wholeness,
The Psalms are like a lifeline
a source of strength, wisdom,
that's helped people for so long
and they still offer us that language
to connect to something bigger,
to find hope, resilience.
to face life's challenges with grace and purpose.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
As we wrap up this deep dive,
Into the Psalms.
I want to encourage everyone listening to
To what?
keep exploring them, find the ones that speak to you,
Experiment with different ways of engaging with them.
read them out loud, listen to them set to music.
Even try writing your own.
And remember, they're not just about finding answers,
It's about the journey, the dialogue with God,
expressing all our emotions, the good and the bad.
discovering the beauty of our spiritual journey,
They're a gift, an invitation
to connect, to find wisdom, inspiration.
to navigate life's complexities.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning.
And keep diving deep.